forget what you've heard about Vietnam. Let's find out what it's really like.
Imagine an economy that, in the span of a few decades, catapulted from one of the poorest in Asia to a growth rate of 8.02% in 2022, outpacing even the giants like India and China. This isn't a hypothetical scenario, it's the reality of Vietnam. With a GDP per capita that increased nearly tenfold from under $300 in the 1980s to $2,800 in 2020.
What's going on there, peoples who are looking at living overseas? We are here today with one of my business partners in Vietnam. There's lots of new information coming out from the Vietnamese government. Lots of things have changed over the last few months since the last time we've had an opportunity to speak. So I kind of wanted to bring everyone up to date on some of the new things that have been going on in the country. I think for those of you that are paying close attention, you'll see more and more that people have been getting denied their e-visas when they're applying for their e-visa within Vietnam. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about the current situation with e-visas, with tourist visas, some of the changes around procedure for processes like, long-term visa, work permit, business visa. And we're going to try to get you brought up to date on all the new changes that are going on within Vietnam. So without further ado, I'm going to let my partner take over and I'm going to let him kind of catch you guys up. I guess let's first start off talking about what's going on right now in terms of the e-visas, because this is something that if you follow social media groups on Facebook around expats or around visas in Vietnam, you're going to see that quite a lot of people are having trouble using these e-visas. And I have been saying this since more than a year now. The government in Vietnam does not want people living on tourist visas. And I think more and more you're going to see rules like this and more enforcement like this coming to prevent people from staying in the country on the wrong visa. But I'm going to let my partner take it from here and he'll explain a little bit more in depth of what's actually going on.
Good days, guys. So we see each other again in the new updates videos about relocations, policies, and doing business in Vietnam. So it is a regular period is by the end of the year and the beginning of the new year. The government is trying to implement new policies for their procedures. And one of the most important things for you if you want to relocate to Vietnam for your business or for your living, it is about the visa policies and also work permit or investor or temporary resident cards. So if you follow on the medias and follow the groups on maybe Facebook, you can see that it is stricter for the foreigner to apply visa while they are in Vietnam. And it is not only for the e-visa, it is for all the type of the visa like business visa, family visiting visa, and e-visa. So the basic principle is that while you are in Vietnam, it is stricter or you are not be able to apply or to change, convert into another type of visa without leaving Vietnam. So many people will argue about this because before they could be able to apply for a new visa while the current visa is still valid, and they could start they could plan for border runs while they have the visa result. But nowadays, more and more cases are reported that they could not apply for an e-visa and they get the response from immigration officer saying in the application that e-visa is applied only for those who want to enter Vietnam, and you are still in Vietnam. So they ask you to exit first and resubmit the application. And this is really written in the law. Is the entry visa by the name. It is meaning that you are outside and you want to come, so you apply for an entry visa.
Yeah, so guys, this is not going to be new information for those of you who've been watching us for a while. We've been warning you since the end of the pandemic that Vietnam has taken a dramatically different policy shift. And even with the liberalization of these visas and allowing 3-month visas again, it is being much more scrutinized and regulated than in the past. And like what my partner said is absolutely true about business visas as well. We have clients that are about to receive their TRC, and even they are needing to leave the country and return in order to start their next business visa application while they're waiting for the TRC approval. So, things in Vietnam have moved to an online system now. And more you're seeing that the system itself is being more controlled, and it's getting much more difficult to kind of exploit these kind of gray area things that people have done for years and years in order to stay in Vietnam. Originally, it was the death of the shell company, where we saw for many years, foreigners were just living indefinitely on business visas. Americans were getting 1-year visas. Other nationalities were getting 3-month visas that could be extended multiple times. And then we saw the government cancel all the shell companies that were sponsoring foreigners, kick out thousands of foreigners on business visas towards the end of the pandemic. And we've seen reform come in, and now there's starting to be more and more of a rigid policy that's taking shape. So Vietnam does want tourists, and they've extended the time to 3 months, but they don't want people living, working, and operating in the country illegally while on a tourist visa. Because the purpose of a tourist visa is tourism. It's not to set up residency in Vietnam, open a bank account, or to find employment, right? That's why they have other visa categories. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the more recent changes and what foreigners should know, whether they're looking at staying in Vietnam as a tourist or as something more long-term?
One thing I've learned living as an expat for so many years is you will definitely get sick. And if it's your first time living in a developing country, I strongly recommend you have some reliable health insurance. That's why we partner with Safety Wing. Our link is in the description below. They're a health insurance company designed for nomads, designed for people who live the same lifestyle as us, who are out there actually living their lives and pursuing new opportunities and new destinations. Safety Wing is a great transitional health insurance until you can arrive in the country and figure out what you can get domestically. They're designed for people who move around and who travel, so it's the perfect health insurance for people who live our kind of lifestyle. You have tremendous lifestyle opportunities in these places. Don't let getting sick mess you up. Your first couple of years in a developing country, you will definitely get sick. And having a reliable health insurance can be the difference between spending thousands of dollars or coming away pretty clean.
Okay, so actually, the immigration system is developed and upgraded time to times. So it is smarter and it is more flexible and more convenient both for the foreigner to apply for visa, but it is more convenient from the side of the immigration officer to manage who is in and who is out. For example, we have Philippines client, and actually she is in Southeast Asia organization, so she has the visa free. But when she want to apply for a business visa or an e-visa, the system still say that she is already in Vietnam, which means when you enter Vietnam, the system records your enter, and then if you do not exit, then the system still have showing that you are currently in Vietnam, even you are overstay. So
Wow.
so it is the system is now more smart, and everything relating to your travel will be properly recorded in the system. So it is not as an easy time before that you can submit for an e-visa. So you need to remember this immigration system needs you to exit first, then they will record to the system, and after it receives the record that you already exited Vietnam, then it's open for you to apply for the new visa. This is the first principle. The normal processing time of e-visa or business visa is from 3 days up to 7 days. But for some of the difficult or sensitive nationality, it could take up to 10 days processing to get the result. And please remember to register your staying when you are coming to Vietnam for come on a tour or visit your family or friends, because registering the resident status is very important, and it also affect the next time you apply for a visa. Many type of visa, but we call visa.
Okay, so does that mean that tourists should also be registering their residency, or is that done mostly by the hotels and guest houses?
Yes, it is done by the guest house in a hotel. But if you just come to visit a friend, so ask the apartment managers or the landlord, landlady to register for you, because the more clear your travel history is, the more chance that you could be able to get a new visa.
Okay, so they are scrutinizing the foreigners' behavior while they're in Vietnam to determine if they're going to continue issuing them e-visas. So essentially, they've extended the amount of time you can stay, but they've made the process more scrutinized. Is that pretty fair to say?
Yes, correct. Actually, there is no clear policy how many times that you could apply continuously for an e-visa in a year. But many reports saying that if you just overstay only 1 day, it really affect your next time submissions for the visa.
Right, of course. Any overstay shows that you're not following the government's policy, so it's less likely that they would want to allow you to continue to stay in the country. As of now, there's no official limitations that are set on how many times you can get this visa, but it's discretionary of the immigration officer. So you're not entitled to this visa. It's an option. It's something the immigration officer can do. He can also give you less time. So those things are possible as well. Am I right?
Yes, correct. And actually, please remember that the immigration system of Vietnam government is how to say semi-automatic. It means that like the system will check whether you already in Vietnam or not. Like as from the beginning of this video, I told you that the system will record when you enter and record when you exit and send all this information to the system of immigration. So the first check will be by the system. But if you pass the system like, hey, you are not in Vietnam, then the second step of the process is the observation from the officer. They will check your travel log. If you already had some overstaying or penalties, violations of the immigration, and then will decide whether you are allowed to have a visa or not. So semi conducted by the system, and the other work will do by manually by the immigration officer.
And are there other changes that have happened recently aside from just related to this tourist visa policy? Are there anything new that the people who are looking at living in Vietnam should know about?
Well, by the end of the year, many countries around the world face with the economic crisis. So Vietnam is either. So the government now encourages the investment from the foreigner. So if you have the plan to relocate to Vietnam or to do business in Vietnam, this is your chance or your opportunity to establish, like to open your own companies, get the 2 year visa and become the investor here.
So it's actually it's a very pro business time. It's just not a very pro be a bum and live on a tourist visa time. So Vietnam, like my partner said, has economic challenges just like the rest of the world has. So they're trying to draw in investment, and they really don't want people in the country that are not going to be, directly contributing to the Vietnamese economy. So it sounds like more and more they're making it easier for foreigners who want to come in and invest, and they're making it more difficult for foreigners that are either unqualified to get a work permit or don't have enough capital to add to the Vietnamese economy. And it seems that since the pandemic, Vietnam has made it clear they're not interested in being Thailand. They do want tourism, but they don't want it to take on the shape of people just living endlessly on tourist visas. And you can see that with the legislation. Now, one thing I think that's relatively new is they're also, for those of you who are thinking about buying companies, they're also starting to enforce Social Security contributions. And maybe we should talk a little bit about how that works for people who are thinking about investing here. They should understand now that they have to pay into a Social Security scheme. Could you tell us a bit about how that works?
Well, it is relating to the procedures of the work permit. So actually, the system of social insurance or social security it has been integrated together with the system of the labor department. So it means that as a foreigner, when you have a work permit, it is the obligation of the employer, the company or the school to pay your social insurance. And this is also the obligation of the foreigner himself to pay this contribution. So it is a share between the employer and the employees. And like the employer will pay additional to your salary, but you need to deduct an amount from your salary to pay for the social insurance. And the foreigners is treated as of local Vietnamese. Like if you decide to leave Vietnam, or if you work for more than 5 years and don't want to work more, or your contract is expired, or your work permit is not renewable, you have the right to withdraw a portion of your social insurance as retirement. So because you have the right to withdraw from social insurance, so the government will make an impact on inspection or investigation for those companies who do not pay for the social insurance.
Okay, so that affects you as a business owner because, like, if you're a business owner, you're going to have a tax responsibility, and now you're also going to be required to do this social contribution. So this is something that is an additional cost. But like my partner said, you do get a percentage back, especially if you've not used it. For teachers and for and people who are employed by companies in Vietnam, I imagine that the employer will most likely explain this to you during the hiring process and take it out of your salary. In terms of compliance, what is the government doing now to kind of ensure that people are paying this? And is there any ways to get around paying this as a company owner, or is it just an unavoidable reality?
Well, actually, if you don't want to pay for the social insurance, you have to be the work permit exemption. Objective. So what is work permit exemption objective? You should invest more than 130,000 USD, or you married to a local person, then you are the objective of work permit exemption. So in this case, you will not have to pay for the social insurance. But if you make an investment below 130,000 USD, or you are having a work permit, so you are subjective to the payment of social insurance. This is relating to your, how to say, your right, your retirement, and your medical coverage when you are working in Vietnam. So it is strict from the government that trying to avoid paying social insurance could lead to criminal disputes from the government.
Yeah, guys. So they're not playing with this one. It's going to be a requirement, and it sort of makes sense because they really don't want foreigners ending up becoming, the financial burden of the state, while they're in Vietnam. During COVID, for those of you who are relatively new to looking at Vietnam, you may not know there was a couple high profile cases where foreigners ended up, on life support in Vietnam, and the government spent lots and lots of money to keep them alive. And I think that the lessons that were learned from that was that, foreigners need to have some sort of social insurance. Now, the thing I can tell you guys is that the social insurance payment allows you to access the local healthcare system. And some of the hospitals, even in the public system in Saigon, are actually pretty competent. I would say nationwide, the healthcare may still have a long way to go, but within Saigon, Cho Ray is a pretty good hospital. Van Hain Hospital is a pretty good hospital. There's a number of decent public hospitals. University Medical Center is a pretty good hospital. And I believe you'll have access to those hospitals the way a local would. Is that right?
Yes, correct. And even like there is some international hospital codes within the national wise, you can use the social insurance to cover some portion of your medical treatment, inpatient or outpatient. It's depending on which hospital and how severe your disease is. But you pay for social insurance. The government use some amount to purchase for medical system, hospital system, and the remain is your retirement, and you can withdraw it easily after the work permit is expired. So why don't you pay for that to have a better living in Vietnam in case you have some disease or accident?
And guys, honestly, if it's your first time living in a developing country, you will definitely get sick your first couple of years. So it's actually not the worst thing that the government's doing, and it makes quite a bit of sense. If you, like I said, if you've been following since the pandemic, we've seen instances where foreigners have ended up, costing the Vietnamese government quite a lot of money. So I could see why they would want to prevent something like that. And it does make sense that you would have some sort of insurance while you're in the country. Moving on to some of the more recent things that have been going on in Vietnam. Let's talk a little bit about some of the changes that are happening around work permits for teachers, because in the past, you could marry a Vietnamese person, you could get the exemption, and then it's very easy for you to teach. But now I've heard that they're starting to require a work permit specifically for teaching. So even if you're married to a Vietnamese person, you're still going to need to have a degree. So more and more, this degree requirement is becoming a very like strong part of the work permit process, and being able to skirt that and pay to get around it is becoming more and more difficult.
Well, for this matter, actually the school or the English center, well, it is managed by a lot of departments, like the Department of Investment and Planning for sure, to establish a school or an English center. Then it's managed by the Department of Education and Training, of course, because they need to manage the quality of the school and the English center. So there is some agreement, official agreement and official dispatch decree from the Ministry of Labor and Ministry of Education and Training, saying that now if you want to teach at school or teach at an English center, you need to meet some minimal requirement to keep the quality of those school and center, and there will be random check from the even you have a work permit, there will be some random check, not from the labor department, but from the Department of Education and Training, to see if the school hire the correct person, the correct teacher that matching the requirement from the department. So even if that you have the work permit, but if they find out that your qualification is not matching with their regulation, then the work permit is invalid.
And how are they going about this? Are they going into schools and like checking random foreigners, or are they doing it like an audit, or what's the
Yes,
process?
it will be there will be annual audit or random audit. Like for example, the parents just send some paper to the department, like the case of Apex leader. The parents have the right to complain about the school not an English center, and there will be an investigation. That is special investigation. Or by the end of the year, there will be annual audit. The inspector will come to the school, ask the school to provide own profile of the foreign teacher. They will check if you have own qualification.
So guys, Apex Leaders, for those of you who don't know, is a notoriously bad company, bad for the teachers, bad for the customers. They don't have a very good reputation anywhere in Vietnam, and they've found themselves in some legal trouble. So that brought quite a lot of attention to the teaching business. And I think you see the government is starting to do a little bit more diligence in the regulation of that. This school year, I have known of foreigners who have been able to get employment and get work permits without degrees, but it is becoming increasingly more difficult. And I think within the next couple of years, it's not really going to be possible. So I think now, if you can slip in, is a good time to try to slip in, get yourself established, and get that degree done. Because more and more, it's just going to become too expensive, too complicated to try to get around these things. And it's better with all the technology now, guys. You can go online, do online degrees. If you really want to be a teacher in Vietnam, it's better to just get that piece of paper. The Vietnamese government doesn't care if your degree is from an online school or whether you went to Harvard, but it is a box check, and more they are making it very clear that it's going to be much more difficult for you to live in Vietnam without you complying. And it's really not about you as the foreigner or the individual. It's really about making these companies be in compliance with Vietnamese law, pay taxes. But these teachers who have been kind of existing in the gray area, and even myself, when I first came to Vietnam, many years ago, I was a teacher and I didn't have a degree and I was able to obtain a work permit. But I've watched guys, and as I've moved into the consulting business and I deal with immigration more and more, the days of Vietnam just being a complete free-for-all are definitely over. So you want to start thinking more if you're going to stay in Vietnam long term, if you're going to be a teacher trying to obtain the degree, if you're going to be in Vietnam for other purposes, making sure you have a company, making sure you're in tax compliance, making sure that you're paying your Social Security contributions. And as we discussed in the beginning of the video, you guys can see that even skating by on tourist visas is becoming more and more difficult. So, Vietnam, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, has changed its policy a lot. And, if you want to stay here and you want to have a stable life in Vietnam and you want to feel comfortable, it's important to try to stay up to date on the changes in the laws. We try to bring you guys update videos on this channel. If you guys think that the Vietnamese policies towards making work permits, tourist visas and stuff like this is too strict, let me know in the comments section. If you think it's the right move for the country, let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion, what you think is going on and whether or not you think Vietnam is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And we definitely appreciate you guys who are watching the video to smash the like button. We would love you for that. Leave a comment, tell us your opinion, share the videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. So I'm going to let my partner just give you guys any other pieces of information he thinks would be relevant, any important changes that have recently happened. Is there anything else that you think people who are thinking about coming to Vietnam should know right now in the new year?
Well, in addition to all of the facts that you just tell others, Vietnam has a very fast transformation. It means that we transform from the tradition administrative process into the new era, like everything is managed by an online system. So now it is very hard for you to avoid your obligations or to pay any contribution like the yearly business license tax, like pay for your personal income tax or the social insurance while you are working in Vietnam. Everything is managed. I will make an example like this. According to the law and the practical procedure, when a work permit is issued, the information will be sent directly to the Department of Social Insurance, and the employer or the school or the company within 30 days has to send a copy of labor contract with the foreigners to the labor department, and then they will send this labor contract to the social insurance to calculate the monthly contribution for social insurance. So how could you avoid to pay? You
Right.
see,
And
the procedure is very strict, and many people say that Vietnam had a strong management of administrative procedure. So this time is very challenging for you all, like even about the teachers, about those investors who want to come to Vietnam to do your business. You need to train yourself with a lot of knowledge like legal matters, and need to get a lot of advice, or if you could have an agent try to ask as many questions as possible, because nothing in Vietnam will be stable forever and it will be changed very fast.
yeah, guys, Vietnam is constantly changing. Even myself, when I stopped teaching, I now own a logistics company in Vietnam. So I don't live in Vietnam at the moment, but when I come there for business, I am the owner of a company. So even I've had to adjust and change. And, in my opinion, I think it is a good thing because, the country is industrializing and developing. The corruption was pretty out of control for a long time. And now, they are trying to, do some things to curb some of the more egregious issues within the society. And I think that's an inevitability as countries develop. You can't expect a place to stay like the Wild West forever. And my partner said Vietnam is very fast growing. You can see it growing right before your eyes. I watched them put up bridges, skyscrapers, living there. So things are inevitably going to change. And Vietnam is a fast changing country anyway. So even if you're seeing this video, make sure to reach out to us for more up-to-date information, because things can sometimes change in a matter of a couple of days or weeks. So it's really important if you're thinking about coming to Vietnam that you get with us and get up-to-date information. If you're thinking about investing, opening a company in Vietnam, doing any kind of business in Vietnam, you could reach me on the Facebook fan page in the description below. We can come up with a plan and a strategy depending on what your needs are. If you're looking at coming over to teach, I have contacts for reliable employment in Vietnam. We can help you with jobs. We can help you find stable places for real estate, rental. We can help you get set up in a new country with a new life and, prevent a lot of the more challenging struggles that newcomers will tend to face. Dealing with dishonest employers or dishonest consultancies or even dishonest lawyers. We can help weed out a lot of those issues and kind of just put you on the right track to being successful. One thing I do want to mention, guys, is Vietnam is still a developing country in Southeast Asia. It is not a Western country. So it's very important that you come here adjusting your expectations. If you're the kind of person who needs things to be done very precisely and everything to go the way it's supposed to go and the way it's planned, you're going to struggle a lot in this country. Vietnam is a place where, sudden change can happen. Sometimes it makes no sense. It's a very chaotic system to deal with at times, but it's one of the largest emerging markets in the world, guys. There's 99 million people in Vietnam. There's huge mega cities. Major corporations are leaving China and moving to Vietnam. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and we do our best to try to minimize some of the challenges and some of the bureaucracy for you and make the situation for you as comfortable as possible. So please reach out to us if you think that sounds helpful in your journey. Thank you for watching, guys. I want to remind you guys again, subscribe, like, share. If you think that Vietnam's policies make sense, tell us in the comment section. If you think that they're horrendous and silly, tell us in the comment section. We want to know what you think. If you guys are thinking of coming out here, reach out to us. I do hourly consulting, and we can arrange a time to speak, discuss your situation, make a strategy. And anytime you spend with me hourly, I will apply to a larger service. So for example, if you just want to consult with me for an hour and then you decide to do a larger package, we'll subtract the amount of time that you've done consulting with me from the price of the package. The only reason why I charge for the hourly consulting is over the years, I've had a lot of people try to take advantage of me, take advantage of my time. So in fairness to everyone, I charge hourly, but then if you're a serious customer and you're serious about doing business, we don't penalize you for that. We make sure we credit that towards whatever service you decide to work with us. We have reviews on the Facebook fan page, and I'm also happy to create group messages with previous customers so you can talk to real people that have worked with us. On this channel also, there's lots of interviews with previous customers. I definitely implore you guys to check out that content. I hope everyone has had a wonderful new year and a good holiday season. And, don't let some of the bureaucracy, the confusion, the bullshit in the Facebook group scare you away from Vietnam. It's a fantastic country. If you work with the right people, you can have a great lifestyle, lots of success. It can seem a little bit confusing, but again, you need the right people to help you kind of navigate that and put out the fires, because guys, anybody telling you that there's not going to be some fires when you're trying to do business in Vietnam, they're just not being honest with you. So, you need to prepare for that. You need to have the right state of mind, and you need to work with good people, and you'll come out good on the other side. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and share. Stay in school. Brush your teeth.
Brush your face and wash your teeth, son.
Hey, what's up? I'm D from Canada. Hook up with the New York Nomad if you want a smooth ride into Vietnam or any Southeast Asian countries.
Hey, my name is Aaron. Get in contact with the New York Nomads. If you want to get into Vietnam, hit them up. They'll get you in securely and professionally.
Yo, this is Uncle Hollywood. I'm telling you right now, the New York Nomad got me a job. He's legit. Hit him up. Check him out.
New York Nomad set me up in Vietnam.
Yo, my man got me a job. Come to Vietnam.
Hey, what's up, guys? You thinking about coming to Vietnam? You're not sure where to start. You've heard a lot of things online. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not. We offer a consulting service where we help you get on your feet in Vietnam. We give you advice on negotiating contracts with employers. We help you with real estate agents, visa agents that are reliable and that you can trust. We help you get started in this amazing country and get on your feet. We help you get into different opportunities that might be more difficult for you if you were just landing in the country on your own. And we help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems that you could have as a newcomer here. We provide
provide you with reliable job recruiters, visa agents, real estate agents, and advice. If you guys are thinking about coming to Vietnam, hit us up for a consultation. We'll help you get started, help you get on your feet, and hopefully you'll love Vietnam as much as we do.